So is it even possible to lie your way to the White House? Is it even possible that the media can carry you all the way to the top?
Hasn't sat down for a formal interview, though she said that she told her aides that she wants to by the end of the week, or the month, I should say. Maybe by the end of this week. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it will be. By the end of but you have that. You have, she hasn't really rolled out significant views on her policy, although she said her economic policy platform will be coming out. And, the race isn't necessarily going to be smooth sailing for her ahead as we wait for these issues. But
I'm not going to use foul language, but everything she's touched has turned bad. She's incompetent. The reason she's not doing what I do, and she's not doing what she should be doing, she won't even do interviews with friendly people because she can't do better than Biden. Now, he had a reason for not doing well.
Gets asked them, they're not getting the real answer. That's why Audie needs to ask them.
This is so in the Beltway.
No, it really isn't. I'm telling you, Corey, I speak to state voters.
At some point in time, you're going to have to learn to take some form of criticism. And while it is that nobody believes that the mainstream media is actually going to run negative coverage on Kamala Harris, I think it's pretty obvious if you just tell the truth that it then becomes negative coverage. Maybe that right there is what he's saying. This right has got a lot to do with a total lack of accountability, but don't worry, this right is a two-part day, so make sure you guys stick around for both videos, and let's go ahead and dive in. That little bit right there that you guys heard, or at least saw, was SE Cup going at it with Bakari Sellers at CNN. And my God, what in the world has happened to SE Cup? Holy crap. I mean, I'm not just talking about I'm talking about the politics, because at one point in time, she was at the Blaze. And yes, I know she was a never-Trumper in 2016, but I also know that Glenn Beck was a serious never-Trumper in 2016. But of course, Glenn would, in fact, rebound, and of course, he would eventually find his way back to who he really and truly is. But still, though, we got to have this conversation about lying your way to the White House, or how do I say this, not talking to the media at all. Now, you're probably a little bit confused by the way I worded that, and let me go ahead and kind of sort of tell you what I mean. We all know that any type of interview that Kamala Harris does, and it's the same thing we had with Joe Biden, is probably going to be edited by the media to try to dress it up and try to make it look as good as possible. However, the thing is this right here. In Biden's case, you mostly walked away with, how do I say, thinking that he had dementia. You obviously walked away thinking that he was not there mentally, but at the same time, though, he at least had some idea he knew what he was talking about, even though he really and truly didn't, because most of what came out of his mouth was lies. But at least they could kind of get by on that. However, the thing about Harris is this here. You can't get by with Harris because Harris really and truly is that bad. Of course, these are topics that came up over the weekend that I think, to a certain extent, are way more relevant, especially given the fact that it is an election cycle. By the way, there will be a video later on this week detailing exactly how the rest of the year will go going into next year. I want to go ahead and get that out of the way because, obviously, I'm going to have to be back under the knife here in a couple of weeks, and I may have to go back under the knife a third time before the year is over with, just giving you guys a bit of a heads up. Now, the thing is this right here. In both the videos you guys are going to see today, you guys are going to see exactly how it is that the media is going to handle this, and then you guys are going to see exactly how properly to handle the media, because J.D. Vance put together one hell of a performance yesterday on the Sunday shows, but we'll talk about that in video number 2. So what exactly is happening? Well, over the weekend, Kamala Harris, for some odd reason, got the harebrained scheme that it would be a good idea to do what? Steal the no tax on tips line.
And eliminate taxes on tips for service and hospitality workers.
Because when I get to office, we are going to not charge taxes on tips, people making tips.
And eliminate taxes on tips for service and hospitality workers.
Something else really quick about no taxes on tips, and I need to say this before we go any further because I'm going to feel like a complete total jerk if I don't say anything about it. Kamala Harris was the deciding vote in the Inflation Reduction Act. So, yeah, it took an exact 51 votes in the Senate to get that passed. The thing is this right here. The Inflation Reduction Act included a provision that added 87,000 brand new IRS agents who, guess what? Targeted waitresses, waiters, anybody who worked in the service industry, hospitality industry. Also, to go on top of that, people who own barbershops, things like that. Anybody who uses tips as a part of their wages, she actually was heavily involved in going after those people. Just saying that this flip-flop by her is not going to play very well. I showed you guys her saying it, then I showed you guys the one of the side-by-side. This right here was Trump's idea, no tax on tips. However, they'll also tell you that it was not his idea, and they'll say, no, it was actually Rand Paul's back in 2011, or they'll bring up Ted Cruz's proposal on this, and then they'll turn right back around and lie about it. They're already starting the whole spin, basically saying that it's good when she brings it up, and it's bad when he brings it. This is kind of sort of how it is that I know that whatever SC Cup is asking for is more than likely not going to occur. Now, there is a component to this that Bakari Sellers, and it's a very, very, very big component to what Bakari Sellers is arguing for, because he's actually the one who got upset that the media was considering running negative coverage, according to him, because she won't sit down and have interviews. I'll talk about that more towards the end. The fact of the matter is this right here. There's a giant component that he, of course, is not, in fact, how do I say, thinking about, the SC Cup is in fact thinking about. I will give her credit, at least in that regard there. So why in the world are people now saying that Kamala Harris, or why in the world is the media now saying Kamala Harris needs to sit down and have a conversation? Well, it's probably because the other day Trump spoke for about an hour and 14 minutes. And of course, this right here was a very, very big part of his speech at Mar-a-Lago the other day. Here's a bit from it.
Oh, it's going to end. The honeymoon period's going to end. Look, she's got a little period. She's got a convention coming up. It's about policy. It's not about her. I think she's incompetent because I've watched her. She destroyed California. She destroyed San Francisco. Everything she's touched has turned to bad, foul language. But everything she's touched has turned bad. She's incompetent. The reason she's not doing what I do, and she's not doing what she should be doing, she won't even do interviews with friendly people because she can't do better than Biden. Now, he had a reason for not doing well, and he was never, 25 years ago, the sharpest or brightest bulb in the ceiling. That I can tell you, okay? He wasn't. But he could do interviews at least. Not lately, he couldn't, perhaps. But she should be doing interviews. She doesn't want to do interviews.
I said before, the media is going to do their own little spin. Now, the biggest reason why it is that the Harris team is refusing to do interviews, well, let's just go ahead and be honest. It's because she's terrible off script. I mean, this woman the other day, she had a moment, you guys remember I talked about this, where she decided she wanted to basically tell the Free Palestine crowd when they show up to protest, which is kind of odd because you're going to hear Bakari Sellers talk about 50-some-odd thousand people, which, by the way, those numbers are even questionable, and they're also using questionable tactics when they're talking about Trump's, how do I say it? Talk about his crowd size. And of course, Trump would eventually fill an arena, get about 10,000 people in an arena in Montana. Montana, of all places, not very many people there. Not saying that to dismiss Montana, it's just a smaller state population-wise, even though it's obviously a very, very big, beautiful state with a lot of livestock, food that we need. Still, the point is this right here. These people are going to use every tactic in the world. By the way, there are people who are questioning the actual rally sizes that Kamala Harris has, especially given the fact that you see, photos like this right here where they actually got half the arena walled off, or at least the top deck. Also, something else, too, to consider is that, of course, you're going to get 15,000 people in an arena if you're in Philadelphia. Of course, you're going to get that if you are in Phoenix or Las Vegas. The Wisconsin rally she had the other day was actually during a Bolivar concert in Eau Claire, and it was right around 2,500. This is the same exact tactic that Hillary Clinton used back in 2016, and of course, you guys obviously saw where it got her. The no tax on tips line, we'll talk more about in video number 2, but I'm just giving you guys a bit of an idea of exactly where this campaign is going to go. It's going to lie, it's going to cheat, it's going to steal, and yet it's also at the same time going to expect to face no form of accountability ever. But there is a such thing called ads, and even though some of these ads may be a little bit distasteful, Trump, of course, at that Montana rally showed you exactly why it is she won't do interviews with the press. Let me roll this.
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day. Every day it is time for us to agree that there are things and tools that are available to us to slow this thing down.
We will work together and continue to work together to address these issues, to tackle these challenges, and to work together as we continue to work.
Do you ban plastic straws?
I think we should. Yes. I mean, look, I'm going to be honest. It's really difficult to drink out of a paper straw when you had, if you're just, like, if you don't gulp it down immediately, it starts to bend. Yes. And then, you know, the little thing catches it, and then, you know, so we got to kind of perfect that one a little bit more.
Do you know, okay, a bit of a history lesson. Do you know that women were not, the women's teams were not allowed to have brackets until 2022?
So the United States shares a very important relationship, which is an alliance with the Republic of North.
Of course, she's terrible on the stick. She's terrible on the mic. I mean, Judge Joe Brown even said that she was looking at the possibility of possibly having early onset dementia at a very, very early age because she can't put words together and she can't actually properly articulate them. I know that I've had the same issue in the past, but of course I found the biggest reason why I was in that situation was because I was such an alcoholic. It was actually beginning to affect my voice, my brain, and me being able to put words together. Now that I have better blood flow going through here, at least for now, because I'll have better blood flow at the end of the month, yeah, obviously I sound a little bit better, and I'm actually able to articulate just a little bit better here on the platform. It takes me a lot. I have to actually practice a lot sometimes before getting into these videos, but that's a different conversation altogether. But here's what I want to say. Because we're about to get back to Bakari Sellers, and we're about to get back to this conversation involving SC Cup, and we're obviously going to respond to this and react to it. Here's what Bakari Sellers, people like him, do not understand. Now, there is a purpose behind what they're doing. It's just the simple fact that they expect the media to kind of like, how do I say, protect them, run fire for them, run cover for them. They expect the media to get her elected. The problem with that is that when you're on the national stage, the media has to at least dress it up somewhat to where they can't actually be as overt, even though they obviously are overt. MSDNC, of course, they're going to run the propaganda for the Democratic Party candidate. CNN is going to run the propaganda too, but they're also going to have little moments like the other day when Van Jones basically said that the Democratic Party had turned into an anti-Semitic party. You're going to have people like, say, Scott Jennings countering. You're going to have that where MSDNC is nothing but Democrats. I mean, even Fox News has Jessica Tarloff and Harold Ford Jr. They have Democrats there to counter whatever Republican talking points come from these guys or whatever comments are there. Basically, what I'm saying is that the propaganda wing, of course, is obviously going to be very, very high, but still at the same time, you've still got to dress it up to a certain extent. Even Hillary Clinton sat down with Fox News in 2016. Biden did not sit down with Fox News in 2016, but Biden did take questions, mostly on Zoom calls for local news outlets. He did at least do that. Kamala Harris is doing none of that. She's just going to simply ride the media all the way. In 2008, when Obama was running, he actually did interviews. I don't know if he did one with Fox News or not, but he would eventually do one during the Super Bowl, the halftime show with Bill O'Reilly. The fact of the matter is this right here. If Kamala Harris expects to actually reach actual voters and not just the online Beltway crowd, she's going to have to sit down and she's going to have to actually do some interviews because people need to actually hear her voice. Now, we're going to react to about the first minute of this. We're going to watch it. And I'm going to come back on the other side and kind of expand a little bit more because what SC Cup is saying is 100% true. And you can obviously see that Bakari Sellers, he doesn't want to accept it.
Take questions. We're going to make sure of that. But, you know, there's been a bit of a honeymoon period. I think she's giving Tim Walz a moment. But he did make that contrast, I think, really clear. The rest of it was such a waste of time and a wasted opportunity to talk policy to voters.
Let me just also say this: like, don't nobody care but us about somebody taking a question. No, that is very true.
I speak to swing state voters all the time.
But yes, they have questions, they want answers. But you know what doesn't have to happen? Audie doesn't have to ask those questions.
Yes, Audie does have to ask those questions.
No, she does not. Political does not.
Because when fans ask them, Bakari, when friends ask them, when surrogates ask them, they're not getting the real answer. That's why Audie needs to ask them.
This is so in the Beltway.
No, it really isn't. I'm telling you, Bakari, I speak to swing state voters.
Okay, let me explain why this right here is the case. Let me explain why it is the SC Cup is correct. When people get off of work, they normally go straight to the TV, and they normally watch their nightly news there. Now, their nightly news could consist of ABC, NBC, the 30-minute news segment, CBS, or it could consist of Fox News or MSDNC. Most working people, by the way, watch Fox News. I'm just simply pointing it out there because it is an actual fact. Go ahead and dispute me in the comment section. That's fine. The fact of the matter is this right here. While it is that we do have our cell phones and we do have social media, we do have Twitter and stuff, at the end of the day, the true commentary typically comes from the pundits. Well, it just so happens to be that Fox News is the biggest outlet. And of course, you have CNN. And of course, they have their commentaries definitely more left-wing. But of course, you do have people from time to time who will go up there and they'll counter it. Also, to go on top of this, people are also going to News Nation and Newsmax. Newsmax being much, much more conservative. Real America's Voice News is another one. And, of course, Newsmax is actually, News Nation's a little bit left-leaning, but still, though, their reporting is not that bad. The truth be told about News Nation is it's mostly Fox News mixed with CNN personalities. I don't really care for them too much, but their overall reporting is not that bad. The fact of the matter is this right here. People, while they definitely look at their Twitter app, at the end of the day, they go to their to what they see at night for overall commentary. That right there is what they ultimately go for. And there's also a certain section of people, it's a pretty large section of people, who don't even watch or actually look at their phone for news. They look at their phone, they look at their Facebook app, they simply connect with friends, talk about what the hell is going on. And, of course, they just watch the news when they get off work, when they get in front of the television. Kamala Harris at some point in time is going to actually have to sit down and have conversations in front of people who are actual, literal, real voters. I understand the crowd size. I understand she's a bit of a bump or whatnot. But even that bump, even that polling bounce is a bit questionable when you actually look at the actual crosstabs of each poll. It seems to me like it's fake, which, by the way, is going to be the key topic of video number 2 because obviously her fakeness is definitely going to be a problem for her, and people are obviously starting to catch on to this, including the mainstream media, but let's continue.
And bringing it to you, Tricia, is because you worked for Vivek Ramaswamy, I think he was very much an online candidate, right? He had such, and one of the things about... I don't know, but I don't think that's a compliment. It is a compliment. It is a compliment.
Yes, it was.
Because the Harris-Walz campaign is now extremely online, and so while this press conference was going on, their rapid response team was clipping every second out of it. And is there something to be said for there to be independent questioning of a candidate that can be used by anyone to have answers that he might not otherwise get in a more friendly environment?
Let me tell you what's not online. Is when you pull up at a hangar and have 50,000 people. You know what it'll look like? It'll look like Donald Trump in 2016.
Damn, Bakari, you sound like Trump coming out here exaggerating the numbers. Look, first and foremost, now all of a sudden we want to talk about crowd size. Let me say this really quick. At the rally that she did in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, if I didn't say it already, she only had about 2,000, 2,500 people. And it was actually during a Bonnevere concert when she actually did her rally. Like I said before, Hillary Clinton did the same crap in 2016 with Jay-Z. By the way, you're not fitting 50,000 people inside of a hangar. And in one of the videos that I did recently on this, you guys obviously saw the front half of the rally that she was talking to was probably maybe 2,000, 3,000 people there at the most. And of course, obviously, you guys can see in some of these that I showed you guys some photos in, they're actually fudging the numbers once again. They're actually blanking out like half the stadiums. It's the normal tricks they always do to try to make the place look bigger than what it really and truly is. So just go ahead and know right off the bat that right there is a bunch of crap. It's also a misnomer for multiple reasons, but let me go ahead and say this really quick. You can't win in today's society being just strictly an online candidate. Yes, you can develop a following. Yes, you can do that. But the thing is this right here. At the end of the day, you still have to really go out there and also talk to people, do interviews, because guess what? A large portion, actually the biggest portion of the voting populace, is not online, especially when it comes to people that you need, like, I don't know, maybe seniors, people between the age of 45 and 64 that may not be as tech literate, just saying, but let's continue.
2008. What's not online is when you show up and you have 20,000 people in Phoenix, Arizona. What's not online is when you're actually, you look at polls now. You look at every national poll.
But people see the clips. These things live forever. Obviously, the NABJ interview is a good example.
But what I'm just saying to you is that this campaign is not one that's just online.
But Bakari, I adore you. You know that.
Yeah,
we
rock.
But you will lose, and you're not the first person to make this argument that she doesn't need to do this. It's very inside the beltway. This is for us. You lose credibility when you do that. Because if it were someone else, you would be demanding that they sit down for questions. And you know what? It'll make her a better candidate.
The look on Bakari Seller's face says it all while SC Cup is talking to him. And by the way, I mean, look, like I said before, what happened to SC Cup? But still, the look on his face says it all. This right here is a guy who knows if Kamala Harris actually does talk to the media, she's going to get absolutely destroyed. I mean, it's not like there aren't a bunch of flip-flops out there that do, in fact, exist. People don't like flip-floppers. We'll go back over the flip-flops once again in video number 2. Just give you guys a bit of a heads up. But still, though, pay attention to this guy's body language during this entire process while being told the actual truth about what's ultimately going to happen.
But that's...
And why shouldn't she? She should answer these questions for the American people.
And she will.
But why not now?
Because why do you have to? But why do you have to? First of all, let me ask you this question. Just a fundamental question. If Kamala answers no questions today, and Donald Trump says that he had more people at a rally than Martin Luther King Jr., which one is better?
I think that is like a complete misnomer.
Why? Because that's what he said today.
Because it's a false choice.
Because he said it today.
Donald Trump says this, and Donald Trump, dude. You got to get people to vote for you. Voting against somebody is not going to work. I can already hear somebody saying it worked for Democrats in 2020. Actually, it really didn't. What really happened in 2020 was that Democrats had COVID, and people were voting against COVID itself. They were voting for a change in leadership because of the situation they were under. That's the real reason why that occurred. Before COVID, they were hurting for votes. They were hurting in overall turnout. They had a disillusioned party, and while the polling data may have actually favored them at first, you don't win with polls, you win with overall turnout. You have to give people something to actually vote for. But when you're out here stealing people's stuff like no tax or tips, and you're stealing that from them, and you flip-flop on multiple positions, it makes you look fake as hell, disingenuous, and guess what? They're probably not going to vote for you. Also, something else, too, and this is where it needs to be said, if the media does not interview her, then guess what's going to happen? Take a wild guess in the comments. Say it to yourself. Even Democrat voters are automatically going to assume that they've got it won. And then what happened in 2016 will happen again. They will stay home. I'm actually giving you guys, like, this is one of the very, very few times I'm giving the left a bit of a leg up and just kind of advise you. I'm saying this because I know they're never going to listen, okay? I already know they never will. The fact of the matter is this, right? At some point in time, she's going to have to get in front of a camera. However, there is one more component to this. And, of course, I've already talked about why this is the case, but there is one more component about her that does, in fact, need to be discussed. Do you guys remember when Judge Joe Brown did that interview with the Art of the Dialogue? We got to come back to this. Well, I want to play this little clip for you guys one more time because you're going to see exactly what it was he was talking about when he said you can only get so far on, just watch.
Be afraid to go against her because of what she can pass herself off as. And then you get somebody that's easy to control because she's lazy, because she is becoming incoherent, and because she's always tried to do the casting couch to get where she wants. Now, the problem is that'll get somebody to a certain level quickly, but you can't get past that level if you don't have competence and talent. So my thing about it is if I'm crude about it, in this city years ago, I used to represent a whole bunch of pimps and hoes, and I know a hoe when I see one. And I say this, I don't care, women, you do what you want to do if you want to have recreational sex, but when you do the casting couch or anything else for professional purposes to get paid or advance, you a hoe.
The mainstream media is only going to be able to carry her but so far. Yes, the polling data will work out in her favor for the time being because people only look at the headline and don't read the actual article. The same is true, of course, for both polling and, of course, actual articles, news pieces. When you go through the crosstabs, none of the crosstabs are adding up to her winning. This is where it also goes back to something that Richard Barrett said. You're having a certain section of your voting base believe you got it won, only then turn right back around on election night and the election not go the way you wanted it to go. Barris told the story about how it was he had to talk his son's tennis coach out of self-deletion because the tennis coach believed Andrew Gillum had it won because he was beating DeSantis by 11 points, only to then turn right back around on election night and lose by about 20,000 votes. These right here are the risk you're running with these people. Let me end this video on this right here because I didn't say this a while ago, okay? I probably should have started with this right here. Bakari Sellers saying she doesn't have to do it now. She doesn't have to do these interviews now. That's true. She doesn't have to do these interviews now. But if you know Bakari Sellers and you know the Kamala Harris team, if you know the Biden team, that right there is them basically saying, look, we don't plan on doing interviews. This is our way of saying, look, we don't ever plan on sitting down and having a conversation with you. We don't plan on doing it. If you put off to the end and all of a sudden she screws up, there goes her campaign. Number two, if you put off to the end, or if you do this right here, people are going to start to believe you'll never actually take any interviews. You'll never actually be held accountable. And then to go on top of that there, you will ultimately lose. That type of stuff right there may work on the state level, especially a blue state like, say, Minnesota, where Tim Walz has not been hammered in the media there over his stolen valor claims. But once you actually get national, it begins to matter. But I say this right now. Never interrupt your enemy while they're making mistakes. Never interrupt them at all. Let them keep making mistakes. You will see this right here will not work out very, very well for these people. With that right there being said, though, you guys tell me what you think in the comment section. There'll be a follow-up to this video out today to this one right here to discuss the prayer much, much further. There's actually a lot to go through because the Vance interview I thought was absolutely masterful, but we'll talk more about that in that video there too. Give you guys thoughts in the comment section. Please hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sign off in the comments, and I'll see you guys later.